A couple of days ago there was a little bit of drama in the Honkai Star Rail community. I was watching a Tectone stream because I have nothing better to do with my life and because I love our boy Texticles, okay? And as Tectone does, he was reacting to MTashed, who was having a bit of a hard time in Honkai Star Rail, and he was essentially saying, hey, this game is incredible, but it's kind of limited on the resources and there's not that much that I can do if I want to make guides, or I want to be, you know, I want to do content, I want to play, but I can't. And so there was a little bit of criticism of Honkai Star Rail, and MTashed was getting a little bit of backlash, okay? And that's because you are not allowed to criticize free-to-play games, especially Hoyoverse games. But as a content creator on my other channel for city builders, specifically Rise of Kingdoms, I know firsthand that you will almost always get some amount of backlash if you say anything critical of a free-to-play game, and I think I figured out why. So today we're going to go over the 4 reasons. Actually, I didn't really count, maybe there's more, maybe there's less, but we're going to go over a couple of reasons why you're just not allowed to criticize free-to-play games. Okay, so the first thing we have to talk about is who are the people that are giving the criticism. Okay, these are members of the community that are highly invested in these games, and they are loud enough to make their voice heard in the comment section of videos or on Twitter or in Twitch chat. And so we have to ask ourselves, what's the type of person that would make themselves loud enough to respond to the criticism of a video game? 99% of the time they are either a free-to-play player who grinds a ton in that game, or they're a mega whale for that game. So in both of these cases, the player has invested something, whether it's a lot of their time or a lot of their money. And in the case of the free-to-play player, whenever they see criticism of their favorite game, they see it as a personal attack. Now, I have my degree in marketing, okay, and when you really get down to it, marketing is just consumer behavior, which is effectively just applied psychology, okay? And one of the things that's pretty clear that a lot of these game companies know is that if you log in and interact with the game for many days, you know, 2 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever, that game sort of becomes part of your personality. It sort of becomes part of who you are. I mean, it becomes a ritual at that point to log into the game every single day, and you feel like you are a part of that community because you are. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? I do that with Rise of Kingdoms. Lately I've been doing that with Honkai Star Rail myself. But if a content creator is criticizing that game that is a part of your ritual, whether you realize it or not, you take it personally, because that's part of who you are. They're sort of attacking something that you've invested a lot of yourself into. So of course they're going to be loud in their response to that criticism. And think of it this way, right? If the content creator's criticism becomes the norm, and because content creators do have some influence in a community, then what happens if everyone starts to feel the same way that the content creator does? Then the general sentiment of that free-to-play player's game turns from positive to negative in the community, but that free-to-play player still enjoys the game. And you know what you call somebody who religiously logs in and plays a game that typically is viewed as bad? A loser. They're kind of wasting their time, right? Everyone knows the game's bad, and here you are devoting your life to it. It's kind of lame, okay? And nobody wants to be kind of lame. Nobody wants to be a loser. So they see an attack on their game as an attack on them personally. Now, I know that's kind of like a big claim, okay? But the evidence that this is true is that if you look at all the people that are hating on MTashed, or even for Tectone, right? Tectone was very critical and still is very critical of Genshin Impact, and he has his objectively real reasons. It's not just his opinion, like there's actual reasons to be critical of those games. But when you look at the people that are attacking MTashed or Tectone, they typically make those attacks personal, right? They make them personal even though the criticism is of a video game, which is not personal, okay? So the fact that the negative backlash to those criticisms becomes personal is evidence that the person being negative took it personally. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, next we have to talk about the whales, because for the whales it's a little bit different, but it's also kind of the same. The whales may not spend a ton of time playing the game because they have a job and a family or whatever else that they're doing, but they've spent a lot of their money. In some cases, whales spend 4, 5, or maybe even 6 figures on a free to play game. So if there is a content creator who is, generally criticizing that game, and the sentiment towards that game becomes negative, well, the whale doesn't want to feel like the game that they've spent 5 figures on is not a good game. Okay, they don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear anything that has to do with the game they've spent 10 grand on being not good. Okay, so for them, they're invested monetarily in making sure that the reputation of their game stays good. So any criticism, whether it's reasonable or not, is not acceptable for the whale, because you know what you call somebody who spends 10 grand on a terrible game? An idiot. Trust me, I know, I've been there. So for that whale, if the game that they're spending money on is highly regarded, critically acclaimed, good reviews and whatnot, at least they can feel good and say, hey, yeah, I spent $10,000 on a video game. That's kind of crazy. That's kind of a lot, but it's a good game. I love the game. Everyone loves the game, and there's evidence that it's a good game because everybody loves it, and there's no negative criticism of the game. So when the one person that does criticize it pops up, you better smack them down. Next, we have to talk about sponsored content creators, okay, because this is another critical point of this discussion. There are some people in the community that cannot be critical of a particular game, and I know this because on my main channel I have been sponsored to play various games. Now, as proof of that, this is a screenshot of a contract that I did over a year ago, okay, and in that contract there is a clause that says subsequent posts and creator conduct, but the bottom part of this says creator recognizes that it is in the interest of the parties for the creator to conduct the creator's activity so that it reflects favorably on the parties and promotes the positive public recognition of the client and the program. The creator shall not engage in any activities which may tend to bring the creator, the agency, client, the program, or any other applicable counterparty into public disrepute, contempt, scorn, or ridicule, or which may intend to shock, insult, or offend the community or public morals or decency, such as prohibitive activities. The agency shall solely decide if the conduct is a prohibitive activity using reasonable societal and legal standards. If the creator has engaged in any activities in the past which may fall under prohibitive activities, it shall disclose this to the agency prior to entering into this agreement. It makes sense, right? They're paying you to promote the game so that way people play it. It wouldn't make any sense for them to pay you if you're going to go and turn around and say, hey, yeah, go ahead and play this game. It's actually pretty bad, but you should give it a try anyway. Like, of course that's the case. So I know for certain that if you are sponsored by Genshin Impact or Honkai Star Rail or any other Hoyoverse game, or pretty much any free-to-play game or pay-to-play game out there, there is a 99.9% chance that a clause similar to what I just read you exists in their contract somewhere, because it would be bad business to not include a clause like that. So sponsor creators literally cannot say negative things about their game. But even if it's not in their contract, why would a content creator ruffle the feathers of the company that's paying them? As they say, don't bite the hand that feeds you, okay? And content creation is really a cutthroat industry, okay? There is really no guarantee of income. There could be a game that's popular one day and then 2 months later the game is dead and you built your entire channel on that game and now you have no income. So in a world where you're getting sponsored by a game, that guaranteed income and revenue means the world to content creators. There are many content creators who cannot do what they do if it weren't for companies that will guarantee them a certain amount of income for a particular contract, or maybe they have a salary every month for that specific contract. So even if in the contract it doesn't explicitly say that they can't be negative of the game, there is not a chance that if they are making decent money from a contract that they're going to say something negative, because in the world of content creation, sometimes your income fluctuates by quite a bit depending on the views for a month, depending on the interest in a particular game. And finally, okay, even if the creator doesn't really care about that guaranteed income stream, which I promise you is not the case for 99% of content creators, it's still in a content creator's best interest to cultivate the biggest audience that they can, and that is most easily achieved by appealing to the masses. And the masses might involve a lot of the people that we just talked about earlier, the free-to-play players who've been playing 8 hours a day for the past 90 days. Okay, the whales who have spent 50 grand on a specific game. As a content creator, you want them to like you because you want them to watch your videos. If those players are emotionally attached to this game, then don't say anything negative about the game, because then you're going to hurt their feelings. They're not going to like you, and then they're not going to watch your content, or they're going to click on it just to drop a dislike and a hate comment, and then they're going to leave. And you don't want that as a content creator if you rely on content creation for actual income to pay your bills. Okay, now the final reason why you can't be critical of some of these free to play games is one that I can actually sort of understand, and this one is important to talk about. Okay, and that is the fact that some of these games like Genshin Impact or like Honkai Star Rail, or maybe even games like Rise of Kingdoms that I'm known for on my main channel, these games are high quality games that will provide free-to-play players with dozens, if not sometimes hundreds of hours of entertainment for free. Games like Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail have an entire fully fleshed out story. A lot of it is voice acted. There's a ton of side quests, mini games, world building, regular events, and regular updates that come out often, and free-to-play players get to experience all of that for free without spending anything. And a lot of the times, a large audience for these games comes from countries where they can't spend anything on these games. For countries where income is significantly lower than it is in places like the United States, free to play games might be one of the only sources of high quality entertainment for gamers in those countries. People who literally cannot afford a PlayStation 4, a PlayStation 5, or the $70 that it costs for a new game that may or may not be good, they can at least play a relatively high quality game like Genshin Impact or like Honkai Star Rail and enjoy it. They can be a part of a global community online, and they can feel good about that. Free to play games might literally be the only games that they can afford to play, and if a content creator is extremely negative about that game to 50,000, 100,000, 200,000 people, well, obviously that could negatively impact the game, and if that happens enough, then that can cause the game to die. And if these free-to-play players really don't have any other great alternatives, then that's the last thing that they want. They don't want to lose that high quality entertainment. So from their point of view, content creators just come off as spoiled. They can't really appreciate how much a high quality game like that could mean to somebody who has to be free to play. This is especially true for players who maybe just recently went through some sort of hardship and they really are emotionally attached to this game, and it means a lot to them, and they don't want to lose it. And from that perspective, it makes a lot of sense to me, and it's not really something that I can fully ever understand, and I can't really fully ever appreciate some of these free-to-play games in a way that other free-to-play players might appreciate them. But at the end of the day, the result is the same. If you're a content creator and you're gonna be critical of a game, just be prepared for it to get personal, for it to get ugly, and for it to get negative. Anyway, with that being said, guys, if you enjoyed this video, drop a thumbs up on it. It really helps out the channel a ton. If you're interested in Honkai Star Rail, I'll have my Honkai channel linked down below, as well as my main channel where I talk mostly about city builders like Rise of Kingdoms and Call of Dragons. If you're interested more in content like this, where I talk about things happening in the community, then subscribe to this channel, Omni TV, and click the bell to be notified the next time that I upload a video. Don't forget to comment down below your thoughts on this topic. And with that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. This has been Omniarch. I will talk to you guys again soon. Peace.